Since the introduction of DLSS, NVIDIA has kept iterating on it through multiple minor and major updates, and the most significant upgrade since the transition from DLSS 1 to DLSS 2 arrived last year with DLSS 4, which introduced a new transformer-based model. This new model delivered a substantial leap in image quality over the previous convolutional neural network or CNN-based approach, especially in terms of motion clarity. However, it wasn't flawless and came with some issues such as disocclusion artifacts and subpar particles handling, among other problems. Now, just last week at CES, NVIDIA announced and released a new version, DLSS 4.5. This update brings a second-generation transformer model for DLSS super resolution, promising further improvements in image quality. So in this video, we'll examine the image quality and the performance costs of DLSS 4.5 and compare it to DLSS 4 across multiple games running on different engines to evaluate both the improvements and any regressions introduced by this new version of DLSS. Before we begin, it's important to point out that showcasing visual differences between DLSS 4 and 4.5 in a video form isn't easy. Compression from footage capture, video export, and additional compression on YouTube can mask subtle details. That's why I highly recommend watching this video at 4K and on a monitor or a large screen if possible, regardless of its native resolution. This ensures the highest available bitrate and should hopefully make the visual differences clearer and easier to spot. And with that out of the way, let's get going.
You need to open your eyes.
First, let's talk about the performance costs, and we'll start with the 36C Ti. DLSS 4.5 second-generation transformer model, like the original DLSS 4, leverages FPH precision capabilities on the GPU to run more efficiently. The problem is that RTX 20 and 30 series GPUs lack native hardware FPH tensor core support, so they are forced to rely on emulation, which is significantly less efficient. What makes things even worse is that DLSS 4.5 requires roughly 5 times more compute than the original DLSS 4 transformer model. This means this second-generation model punishes non-FPA GPUs like the 20 and 30 series way harder. We can see the impact very clearly here on the 36C Ti at 1440p in performance mode. Going from DLSS CNN to DLSS 4 transformer model costs around 9%, but moving to the new DLSS 4.5 preset M adds another 10% penalty, while going to the more demanding preset L comes with an additional 16% hit. And the overhead grows as input resolution increases. In balance mode, the cost goes up to 14% from preset K to M and 23% from preset K to L. In quality mode, the hit is slightly larger with 17% from K to M and 23% from K to L. So clearly these new DLSS 4.5 presets are much heavier to run on the 36C Ti. And at least at 1440p, the only scenario where they make sense in terms of frame rate is when you compare performance mode on preset M or L with quality mode on preset K, where performance ends up being almost the same. Now, if we switch to the 4070 Super, which has native FP8 hardware support, we can see that DLSS 4.5 runs much more efficiently at the same 1440p resolution. In performance mode, moving from DLSS CNN to DLSS 4 preset K results in roughly a 3% performance cost. Stepping up to DLSS 4.5 preset M or L adds about another 4% on top of that. Even in quality mode, the overhead stays relatively small. Preset M costs an additional 6%, while preset L is slightly more demanding with around an extra 11% hit. But this changes significantly when increasing the output resolution to 2160p or 4K. In performance mode, moving from preset K to M comes with a 7% hit, while preset L costs around 13%. In quality mode, the cost is much higher with a 15% hit when using preset M and 23% with preset L. So given how heavy DLSS 4.5 can be, it wouldn't be fair to compare it directly against DLSS 4 at the same input resolution. That's why when evaluating image quality, I'll be comparing DLSS 4 quality mode against DLSS 4.5 performance mode at 4K, and at 1440p DLSS 4.5 balance against DLSS 4 quality. Now let's move on to the image quality differences, starting with one of the areas where DLSS 4 tends to struggle the most, the seclusion artifacts. If you're wondering what the seclusion artifacts mean, take a look at this scene and focus on Joel's head and the tip of the bow. As they move, the grass in the background gets repeatedly covered and then revealed. Notice how each time this happens, we can clearly see pixelation and smearing in the grass, as DLSS struggles to reconstruct and correctly rebuild newly exposed pixels and fine details. Switching to the new presets L and M, we can see this issue is slightly reduced but still noticeable. However, when we move to fast-moving animations and objects, like here in Black Myth Wukong, the results are much more impressive. The pixelation that's so obvious with preset K is completely gone with the new DLSS 4.5 presets, even though they're running at a lower input resolution. So it's safe to say that the seclusion artifacts aren't fully resolved yet. Whether or not they're noticeable with the new presets ultimately depends on the game, the scene, and the type of content on screen. Another area where DLSS 4 struggles is with particles and volumetric effects. In this scene, notice how particles within the fog leave visible trails behind them, and how the volumetric effect itself breaks up and becomes unstable. If we switch to the new presets L and M and compare them to preset K, things look noticeably better. The volumetric effect is more stable and the trailing behind particles is no longer visible. Another problem which might be related to the Disocclusion issue is how certain objects behind particles or volumetric effects such as this tree can look unstable and pixelated with DLSS 4 preset K. Looking at preset L or M, we can see that this issue is resolved and the aliasing on the tree is no longer visible. But on the flip side, particles, especially with preset L, show noticeably more ghosting compared to preset K or M. The final particle-related issue I want to highlight, which I've observed in many games, is how DLSS 4 preset K can reduce the visibility of certain particle effects. Like here in AC Shadows, notice how the rain particles with preset K have heavy ghosting that negatively impacts their visibility. But with the new presets L and M, that ghosting is gone and the rain particles are easier to distinguish. So when it comes to particles and volumetrics, it's pretty obvious that the new presets, especially preset M, address most of the issues that preset K struggles with. And overall, this is a major positive in favor of DLSS 4.5. Now let's talk about some other image quality aspects, starting with how DLSS handles thin and complex geometry, which has always been a pain point for all upscalers to resolve correctly. Here in Cyberpunk 2077, even at 4K, using a lower input resolution such as performance mode with the new presets can negatively impact these elements. Notice how the distant tower and the power lines look unstable with preset L and M compared to preset K running in quality mode. If we drop the resolution to 1440p, the breakup and aliasing with DLSS 4.5 become even more obvious, despite using balanced mode versus DLSS 4 preset K and quality mode. In some scenes like this one in Chronos, even when using the same mode across all presets, preset K does a much better job reconstructing and anti-aliasing the tree branches than preset L or M. So when it comes to complex and thin geometry, I think it's pretty obvious that DLSS 4 preset K holds a clear advantage. Another aspect of image quality which you might have already noticed is how much sharper preset L and M are compared to preset K. However, this is a double-edged sword. As much as it can be a positive, it can also be a drawback. In games like Red Dead Redemption 2, where preset K adds a lot of softness to the image, preset L and M significantly alter the presentation and make the game look much better, as you can see here. On the other hand, in most games where softness isn't an issue with preset K, like here in Black Myth Wukong, preset L and M can over-sharpen the image, which negatively impacts the overall look. The last point I want to highlight is how poorly DLSS 4.5 handles ray tracing and path tracing compared to DLSS 4. Here in Cyberpunk 2077 with path tracing, we can see that when running at the same mode and internal resolution, preset L and preset M exhibit significantly more noise and flickering compared to preset K. And when dropping to 1440p, the flickering becomes even more pronounced with the new presets, as you can see here. Normally, this is a problem that can be eliminated updated with DLSS Ray Reconstruction. But at the moment, Ray Reconstruction hasn't been updated to the 2nd generation transformer model. And when you enable it, it falls back to its own combined upscaling and denoising model based on the original transformer architecture. This ray tracing issue isn't just in Cyberpunk 2077, it shows up across multiple games, like here in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Notice how noisy the ray traced global illumination looks on these trees with preset L and M compared to preset K. Or here where the ray traced reflections exhibit quite a lot more flickering with the new presets. If we switch to Dial-Light the Beast, we once again see the same noisy, flickery look on the ray traced global illumination with the new presets. Even software ray tracing like Lumen exhibits the same problems as you can see here in Black Myth Wukong. Now this is a major issue because of how demanding DLSS 4.5 is. We're often forced to use it with lower input resolution modes such as performance, which in turn amplifies the noise and flickering. So does that mean DLSS 4.5 is useless? No, absolutely not. In my opinion, DLSS 4.5 presets should be viewed as additional tools, not as a complete replacement of DLSS 4 preset K. If you have an RTX 40 or 50 series GPU, or if a game features a lot of particles and volumetric effects, or suffers from image softness, DLSS 4.5 even in performance mode can deliver excellent image quality. On the other hand, if you have an RTX 20 or 30 series GPU, or if a game relies heavily on any form of ray tracing effects, preset K is the better pick. So overall, I don't recommend switching entirely to the new DLSS 4.5 presets. Whether or not you should use them depends entirely on the GPU you're running and the type of game you are playing. Before ending the video, I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon. If you are able and would like to directly support my work, consider becoming a patron to get access to the highest possible quality of my latest videos, including this one. And a big thank you to all my supporters, and thanks to you as well for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if not, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.